Hello, second graders. Welcome to reading class with me, Miss Taylor, and we have a special guest. This is my assistant. What's your name, assistant?
Henrik.
This is Henrik, and he would like to help us with our reading lesson. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's see. We need our textbook. This is a textbook, yep. We need a bookmark or our finger.
Yeah, like a finger?
We need a workbook.
Or a finger.
Over there, yep.
A finger?
We'll use our finger to follow along when we're reading. We're going to read each word carefully and pay attention to end marks. We're going to read with accuracy and expression. We're going to understand what's happening in the story, make connections to how characters are feeling, and we're going to enjoy the story. Henrik likes to read, don't you, honey? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't know how to read.
Henrik doesn't know how to read yet. Not yet. When we are reading, we are doing all kinds of thinking. Our brains are making all kinds of connections. We're painting a picture in our mind of what's happening in the story. We're asking questions. We are predicting. We're thinking, what's going to happen next? We're wondering. We are inferring. We're figuring things out. All kinds of things are happening. So, before we start reading our story for today, we have 2 vocabulary sentences. I have confidence we can avoid a long conversation. It's one of our sentences. And the other one is the scuba diver and her partner surfaced near the reef. All right, so let's see. The scuba diver and her partner surfaced near the reef. Everybody, what word tells about a ridge that forms underwater? Yeah, a reef. Oh, Miss Taylor, I forgot to underline it. Underline it. What word tells that people swam to the surface? Yeah, they surfaced. What word tells about a person who goes underwater with a mask and a tank of air? Scuba diver. Nice. What word describes a person you do something with? A partner. Nice job. And once more, say the sentence that tells what the scuba diver and her partner did. Nice job. Alrighty. So, second graders, we are on lesson 88 for today. It is on page 86 in our textbooks. And once again, we're in our new textbooks with the cheetah on the front. And we are on page 86. Now, page 86, we have some vocabulary words here. And some of them are from our next story. So the next story that we're going to read in a little bit is about the Iditarod. So you see that first word is Iditarod. And the Iditarod is a sled dog race that's run every year in Alaska. So that first word is Iditarod. All right. Okay. Oh, yes, you're going to show me your savings? Okay. All right, but we're trying to read a story, so let's put that back in your piggy bank. Thank you. Okay, so that first word is Iditarod. The next word is Anchorage. And Anchorage is the name of a city in Alaska. Anchorage. Just 1 second here. All right, so that word is Anchorage. Anchorage is a city in Alaska. Word 3 is twilight. Word 4 is buoyant. Buoyant means something can float. Barracuda, that is the name of a fish, a type of fish. And teasing. So let's try those the fast way. Iditarod, Anchorage, twilight, buoyant, barracuda, teasing. Nice job. And column 2, let's try these the fast way. Oh, before we do the fast way, that first word, grasp, is when you grab onto something and you really hold onto it tightly. You grasp something. All right, so grasp, especially, buoyancy, upwards, struggling, suffer. Nice job. Alrighty. So our story is called An Emergency. All right, so An Emergency. Let's get ready to read. Here we are. Fingers ready. About 10 minutes after the dive began, the group of divers had reached the bottom of the valley between two long reefs. The bottom was 100 feet below the surface. Let's see. Everybody, how long did it take the divers to get 100 feet below the surface? Yeah, 10 minutes. Here, the pressure was 4 times as great as it had been on land. Darla's mask pressed against her face with great pressure. It's really pushing on her face. Her ears seemed to ring. Oh, her mouth was dry, and she had trouble swallowing. So her mouth felt really dry. Her ears were ringing. The mask was pressing on her face. There's a lot of pressure. Seems like that would be kind of uncomfortable. All things looked different. There weren't as many plants as there were above on the reefs, and things were not as bright. When Darla looked up, she could see the sun shining above the surface of the water, but it looked like a light gray circle. So because they were down so deep, the sun looked like a light gray circle. The other divers seemed to be swimming through twilight. A slow stream of dark gray bubbles followed each diver. Darla and her sister stayed close to each other and tried to stay close to the other divers. However, as they moved through the valley, Darla saw a school of fish above her. They were not tiny silverfish, but large, arrow-shaped fish. She pointed up and said the name of these fish to her sister. "Barracuda," she said, but it sounded like Bubba Buddha. All right, so Darla was trying to point out to her sister that there was some barracuda fish, but it sounded like Bubba Buddha. All right. So if you look at the picture, you can see the barracudas swimming above Darla and Julie. They look like black cutouts because it's so dark where Darla is. Darla had read about barracudas. They were dangerous, perhaps more dangerous than sharks or killer whales. Barracudas swim in large schools, and they grow to a length of almost 2 meters. Remember, this is a meter, so 2 mighty meters. Whoa. A barracuda's mouth is filled with sharp teeth, and barracudas have been known to attack swimmers and kill them. The barracudas above Darla and her sister swam swiftly through the water, moving in almost a straight line. Darla and her sister watched them until they disappeared into the darkness of the water above them. When Darla turned around, she did not see the other divers. Yeah, it's on the computer. She signaled her sister that they should catch up to the others. The sisters began to swim fast along the floor of the valley. Darla could not swim as fast as her sister. As Julie moved ahead of Darla, Julie turned around and motioned for Darla to catch up. You want to say hi? I never already said hi.
Hi.
This is Sophia. She's my other assistant.
Like I was in the other math video.
Yeah. Darla could see that Julie was smiling. She was teasing Darla. All right. Okay. So, everybody, who was a better swimmer, Darla or Julie? Julie, yeah. And who had been swimming for a longer time? Julie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Julie. And how did Darla know that Julie was teasing her?
She was smiling?
Mm-hmm. Darla kicked harder and pulled harder with her arms, but she couldn't catch up to Julie, who stayed just ahead of Darla. The girls swam rapidly along the bottom for about a minute, but still they could not see the other divers. Darla was starting to feel a little nervous, especially as she moved through a current of very cool water. The water at 100 feet down is cooler than it is at the surface, but every now and then there's a current of water that is very cool. The one that Darla and Julie were going through now gave Darla a chill. Ooh. All right. Let me just pause this for a second.
Sophia had a chill.
All right, so Everyone, is the water cooler on the surface or 100 feet below the surface? Yeah, 100 feet below the surface. All right, and the current gave her a chill. That means she got colder. Ooh. Where are the other divers? Darla asked herself. Darla remembered what their guide had told them to do if they were separated from the group. Remember what they should do? Yeah, go to the surface. Darla was just about ready to signal Julie that they should go to the surface. Suddenly, Julie turned around and pointed to the air hose. Darla noticed that Julie had a frightened expression. Ooh, so her face, an expression. She was like, oh, had a frightened expression. Then Darla noticed that Julie was not letting out large masses of bubbles. There were not a lot of bubbles coming out. Only a small trail of bubbles was coming out of her mouth. Oh dear, and if only a small amount of bubbles were coming out, that means she's not getting very much air. She's not letting the air out. Because the bubbles should look like large masses of bubbles, all kinds of bubbles. So for some reason, Julie is not getting enough air from her tank, so she can't breathe. Oh dear. Julie was excited. She kept pointing at her air hose. Oh, I think they mean this kind of excited is like if you're kind of like nervous, excited about something. And I think she's probably excited in like the scared way. She kept pointing at her air hose. Her eyes were wide. Before Darla could think about what was happening, Julie pointed up toward the surface and began to swim toward the surface very fast. She's like, I have to go to the surface. I have to go up very fast. Uh-oh. But what could happen if she goes up too quickly? Yeah, she could get the bends. Remember, if you go up too quickly, and these little bubbles can form in your blood, and that can be very dangerous. No, Darla shouted as loudly as she could. No! But Julie was already about 5 feet above her and moving very fast. I must catch her, Darla thought to herself. Darla used every bit of strength she had. She kicked with all her might and she pulled hard with her arms. Then she remembered her buoyancy device. The device is a little airbag above the air tanks. The diver can fill the buoyancy device with air or let air out of it. When it's filled with air, the diver is very buoyant, which means that the diver floats to the surface very fast. So the diver can let air in and out of the buoyancy device. So when the device is filled with air, the diver goes to the surface. Yeah. When there's no air in the buoyancy device, the diver is not very buoyant and the diver sinks to the bottom. Darla pressed the button that filled her buoyancy device with air and she shot upwards very fast. Within a couple of seconds, she caught up to her sister. She grabbed Julie around the waist with one arm. With the other, she pressed the button that lets the air out of her buoyancy device. So she's trying to go down a little. So, because they don't want to go up to the surface too fast or they could get the bends, right? Yeah. So, she didn't want Julie to go up too fast, but Julie needs air right now. I wonder how Darla is going to solve that problem. Is she going to help her sister? Please read the rest of the story to yourself. And then find out what happens. When you're finished, you're going to reread the story one more time on your own. You're going to answer the questions at the end of the story, complete your workbook, and read for 20 more minutes a book of your choice. I hope Julie's okay. Do you think she's going to be okay? I hope so. I hope she doesn't get the bends. And Darla, too. All right. Bye, readers.